Going back to the book, they're starting to be out on patrol, and they're marching up what's called the Rosebud. H and the 5 remaining troops headed down the Powder and eventually arrived at the southern bank of the Yellowstone. The wagons had a tough time, and it wasn't until Custer had taken a troop and scouted out a good road that the heavy wagons could make it. Custer was mighty good at this kind of work. He had a nose for scouting and finding the best trails. It was noon on June 22nd when we broke camp and started our march up the Rosebud. Just before we packed our mules, Benteen ordered us to take an extra supply of salt. That meant we might be living on mule or horse meat before we got back. I suppose we all knew by this time that we'd be hitting it into dangerous country. But as I look back, I don't believe many troopers were very worried. We knew there'd be some hard fighting, but a soldier always feels that it's the other fellow who's going to get it, never himself. That morning, word spread about the camp that mail was going to be sent back home and that this would likely be the last chance to get off letters. Of course, I didn't have anybody to write to, but the officers and many of the men hurriedly scribbled letters to their dear ones. And as they go to mail off these letters, they're on a boat. The troops are on a boat, and they barely gone 50 feet with these letters to get them mailed off when the boat was overturned, and all 3 men disappeared along with the mail sack. Now, here's the orders that they get as they're going up. These are actually the orders to Custer, and again, what's awesome is these are documented. This isn't the hearsay. These are documented orders. Colonel, the Brigadier General commanding, directs that as soon as your regiment can be made ready for the march, you proceed up the Rosebud in pursuit of the Indians whose trail was discovered by Major Reno a few days since. It is, of course, impossible to give you any definite instructions in regard to this movement. And were it not impossible to do so, the department commander places too much confidence in your zeal, energy, and ability to wish to impose on you precise orders. So he's giving him, hey, look, here's my general idea. He's giving him some commander's intent, but he doesn't want to give him anything too specific because he knows he can't. He doesn't know where he's going to be in 2 days. What's going to be happening up there? Mm-hmm. He will, however, indicate to you his own views of what action should be and desires that you should conform to them unless you should see sufficient reason for departing from them. So he gives them his orders, but he gives them some pretty good leeway to work through. And that's why there's some discussion on whether or not Custer disobeyed. It's a long discussion probably with no one could ever come with a solid conclusion on, because there was definitely some leeway in the orders, and that was the leeway that I just read. Then the orders continue to go on, but I'm not going to go into those minor details of them.